Hey guys, welcome to the Loudcast. This is our second episode that is part of our lockdown / NaPoWriMo special. We are here, still in the flat. I'm joined by my wonderful flatmate, the love of my life, Mr. Perry Johnson. And we are joined in our flat by Katie. And somewhere in Leith, in an undisclosed location, are our good buddies, part of I Am Loud, our poets in quarantine, Mark Galley and Beck Sherwood.
Howdy.
That response did not match the energy of the intro I gave.
It did not, Kev. It did not. I'm
Don't worry.
ashamed for them.
I'm disappointed.
Don't worry, you won't be.
I don't know. I'm more worried about how seething Katie's going to be after that. I was convinced you were introducing Katie first.
Yep.
Oh, there's a lot of seethe over here. A lot of
Oh.
seethe.
Katie got the intro that Katie earned. So,
Wow.
this is day 5 of NaPoWriMo. We have done 4 days in full. We've got our poems, we've done our writing, but we don't have a 5th because obviously we're filming this. This isn't all that's come out this week. On Thursday, just there, we had a wonderful poem come out on our YouTube channel from Catherine McFarlane, who's the current Scottish Slam champion, which is pretty awesome. Her poem Spaces came out on YouTube. It is a beautiful piece. I was blown away by it. So please do go check that out. We had a poem by Hannah Lavery go up on our Patreon, which is for the early access guys. So if you're paying $1 or above, you're getting early access to that amazing poem. So please go check that out. And we also, yesterday, dropped our second installment of Return to Form, which is our erasure poems from Katie Ailes and Mark Galley, based off of H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds.
Yeah, the first 3 paragraphs I think we used. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, the first 3.
Sorry, Mark?
I was just saying, the first 3 paragraphs.
Nice. We talked a little bit about Return to Form last week and what we kind of been doing with that. So hopefully you checked out the erasure poem. Hopefully if you hadn't seen the ekphrastic one that Bex and I did, you've gone back and had a look. We'd love to see your versions. This is National Poetry Writing Month. You don't need to stick to the prompts that we're putting out or anyone else is putting out. You can do whatever you want, which is lovely. So go try an erasure, go try an ekphrastic. You can use the same source material. Both of those are linked in the video descriptions. So you can do that. You can use a totally different piece if you like. So check those out. How did you find erasure?
I loved it. It was great to use existing work and just chop away bits to reveal a poem. I think particularly if you're stuck or if you're not someone who identifies as a poet or a writer, it's a lot easier to chip away at something than to stare at a blank page and not know what to do. Shout out as well to Cordelia from the Storytelling Center, who's doing she's doing NaPoWriMo. I think she's trying to do an erasure poem every day, and she's using our prompts. So she's starting with a chapter that starts with A is she did for the first day, and then a chapter that started with B for the second day. So she's smashing it. So shout out Cordy.
That's really cool.
Cordy!
And that's a good example. You know, you can put your own twist
Yeah.
on what you're doing with the month, which is really cool. Mark, how did you find the erasure?
Oh, I love the erasure poem. Speaking as not a poet or a writer, it was brilliant. No, because for me, I always get bogged down in what the idea is, and so just having the text there and going, all right, what can I find in it? It felt like a really fun game of hide and seek. So I found it both sort of simple to understand, but like very thought provoking and quite fun as an exercise.
Nice. And how did you think yours compared to Kate's? Like, did you see similarities, big differences? Like, is there anything that stands out that she did different from you?
I was surprised that I used the most amount of words. I thought I was going to have gotten rid of most stuff. But I did. I thought it was going to be a case of I was just because for a lot of it I was just like, I'm just saying the same thing here but with less words. But then as I say,
poems in it.
But the main thing that I quite like, maybe it's a part of the piece depending on what you pick, but I quite like the sort of the lines a lot of lines that me and Katie kept the same sort of, or ones that we kept, but then ones that had totally different meanings. Like I like that we both went a certain direction with it. You'll have to watch the video to find out what direction that is.
Yeah.
Nicely done, Galley. Bravo. But do go check them out. And Perry, I mentioned on the last Loudcast that obviously you put together all our video work, except the monthly videos. I edit those. Sorry.
Don't apologise, they're great.
But you put together sort of, the stuff with a real creative direction behind it. So what was the thought pattern behind what you're doing with Return to Form?
What is the thought pattern there? It's a very good question, Kev.
There is none!
So in terms of art direction, I wanted to go for something quite simple, but something that stood out. So if you look on the background of Return to Form, it's got it's a black gradient essentially, but what I'm trying to mimic is a black page, which is being hit by a little bit of lighting, which means it is illuminated and it's not entirely black. So, it's using the literature style, but a little bit of a different take on it that fits more with our theme. I went for like a monospace font, which is associated with typewriting, but it's a more modern style of monospace font, which fits more with us. And in terms of the actual source material that we were working with, I wanted to pick a film that was public domain that we could use without having to worry about being sued. And the first thing that came to mind was this, Voyage to the Moon by Georges Méliès, I think, because it's one of the earliest pieces of cinema, and it is absolutely beautiful and like such an inventive piece of work for being 1902, and they're using painted backdrops and they're using special effects, which for the very early days of cinema is amazing. So yeah, I thought that would be a really interesting thing to get, especially when you're doing Return to Form, which is taking old forms that have existed for a long time in poetry and then having contemporary spoken word poets write to it. I thought it just fit really well to go with earliest pieces of cinema to then have a contemporary poet write about them and interpret them through a new way. So yeah, that's my spiel on that.
Nice. I mean, the reason I bring it up is obviously a lot of poets, a lot of people, a lot of artists in general are obviously stuck inside looking for ways to maybe take artwork that is traditionally on stage or on a page, or the more traditional ways of putting your work out there. Now they're stuck in a house, they don't necessarily know how to do YouTube or put things out that are slightly more interesting than a talking head to the screen, which is fine. Obviously work to the the access to the materials you have. If you don't have a sweet camera and a mic, like what can you do? But it's maybe worth thinking about how you could do stuff beyond just your face to a camera. If you're interested in that, guys, in looking at like different ways you can put stuff together for videos, hit us up, let us know, because we were talking about maybe having Perry put together a little workshop video, something like that. So yeah, give us a shout. But good work on Return to Form. Hopefully there will be more Return to Form coming. We will keep you up to date. But back to NaPoWriMo. So, did anyone fail?
No.
No. Everyone did their poems.
We're the worst.
I mean, only one person posted all their poems online, so... Oh no, Perry
Perry
did
did
as well.
too.
I was gonna say, I hope you're talking about me here.
Sorry, Perry. So
You
Still the love of your
can't
life?
use that as the qualifier, because some of us didn't post any of them for...
all I'm saying is there's no proof that you wrote any poems.
That's exactly
I
my
have
point.
proof. I have a folder with days and timestamps. They are saved once and then they are done. I will show proof, and you'll hear one of them later.
There's a way to check this. Bex, did Mark write his poems?
Yes, Mark wrote his
Oh, right,
poems.
cool.
No,
That's fine.
right.
That's cool, that's cool.
Good. Good job, Mark.
You're going down, Johnson. Going down hard.
So there is no forfeit this week, which is interesting because I checked the YouTube poll just before we came on to record this, and it was a three-way tie between univocalism. What were the other two? Oh no, blank.
Was it mine? So mine was create a new poem out of only the words of an existing poem.
Yeah, and the third tie, I think Perry's, right?
Was it?
No, I think it was my pun poems.
It was. You're
Sorry.
right. So yeah, those tied, and so I don't know what the best thing to do here is because no one failed. So do we take those three and put them into the poll on this video?
I'd say keep going with all of them, and I only say that because I really want mine to win. It's
Yeah, I've
it's
also noticed
obviously
there's-
the most evil one.
It is the most evil
It is
one.
the most evil one.
And I would like to update mine because there doesn't seem to be an awful lot of love for mine in particular. So I'll update, see if I can appeal to a few more people.
Right. Well, let's do that then. We'll go for 5 new ones, but if you want to keep your existing one, you can.
Yeah, sounds good.
So I'm going to stick univocalism. Kate?
Yeah, I'm going to stick with mine. I think it's pretty evil.
So describe yours again to us.
You have to create a new poem, but you can only use the words in an existing poem. So you can repeat those words, and you don't have to use all of those words, but you cannot use any words that aren't in the original poem.
So a new poem out of an old poem.
Yep.
Cool. Perry?
I will stick, because again, I think it's thoroughly evil, and I'd love to see someone have to write a poem against themselves.
So an opposite opinion poem.
Opposite opinion, yes. If you are, for example, pro-choice, then you have to write a poem about advocating pro-life.
I must mention that this is the only example Perry gives every time he mentions this poem, which makes me think Perry really for some reason wants to write an anti-abortion poem.
No comment. I'm not going to lose, so...
I'm not going to lose.
Wow. But which means that it's definitely not what he believes, but I'm confused about who Perry is. We'll get to that when we start talking about this week's poems. Bex?
I mean, the pun poem did get quite a lot of love, so I am tempted to stick with it. But I'm also tempted to punish people for being, not picking me, by taking away the pun poem forfeit and replacing it with a cow poem forfeit.
Yes, Bex. Yes.
Did you say boo or did you say moo? I feel like Mark's going to take this mic away from me. And he should, yeah. So I'm changing my forfeit from pun poetry to if you fail this week and if people vote for it, then someone has to write a cow poem. For those who don't know, I have a lot of cow poems. You will see later.
I was going to say, Bex really loves cows, but she doesn't.
I don't really love cows. I just really love cow poems.
Bex is a bit of an odd cat.
You mean odd cow?
Damn it, Johnson.
You stole my joke. I was going to do that.
So you're switching to cow poem.
Yep, switching to cows.
Bold move.
Bold move.
Mark?
Oh, I need a second after that. No.
I'm so proud.
No. Wow.
This lockdown has gone on way too long.
Wow. So I want to update mine because no one had a lot of love for the sexual poem about an inanimate object,
Shocking.
and I get that. I've mastered the format. You don't want to, how
I'm really
could
glad
it?
that said it in format.
Yeah, like I've mastered it. It doesn't need to be improved upon anymore. So I can get why there's no votes. That's clearly the only reason. So, what I was thinking of doing is, this is some nice competition that we built up, but it's all on the very negative side. So I'm going to try to take it on the positive side. So the first person to fail has to write a super nice and lovely poem about the other people or one of the people.
Aww.
Yeah, let's get some wholesomeness in this. You didn't expect that from me, did you?
Genuinely, I think that would be the hardest one for me to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd struggle with that a lot.
Yeah, it sounds lovely, but it'd be a nightmare for all of us. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah. So you want to write a compliment poem?
Yeah, compliment poem.
That's
Right.
so sweet.
Yeah, I hate it.
So we've got old from new, we've got opposite opinion, univocalism, we've got a cow poem, or we have a compliment poem. Yeah, cool. Those are the forfeits. Go and vote for them in the poll above my head just now. It should pop up. Click on it. Give us your vote. Let us know. And it's way more likely, as time goes on, it's more likely there's a forfeit. I was fairly confident that we wouldn't get a forfeit week 1.
Yeah.
Like, we can do this.
We got
Considering
this.
week 1 is 5 days long. But going forward, it's going to get tougher. So, let's chat about week 1. everyone managed it. We got 4 days because today's day 5, and so that is A through D. So does anyone want to volunteer an A poem? I will actually. I will do it.
You start it, Kev.
Because this way's fair, right? I should start us off. My A poem isn't my strongest. Basically, one thing I tried to do, I said it in our last episode, was that my big aim is just to finish the poems, to get something done. I'm really bad for it not starting perfectly, and so scrapping it. So this is, don't judge me. So I took the prompt A, and I took it as like point A. A is a beginning. It is time to write. No more tea brewing or plate cleaning, no more Twitter scrolling or email reading. It is time to write. No more playlists or Pinterest, no more subreddits or side quests. It is time to write. No more bread to bake, no more calls to make, no reason in the world to wait. It is time to write. Tomorrow, yes, tomorrow, it is time to write.
Little
applause.
BSL applause.
So I guess what we should do, and this is horrible to suggest on my own terrible poem.
It's not terrible.
Feedback.
I really enjoyed that, and I think it's a great way of starting off NaPoWriMo, because obviously there's the core irony that you wrote the poem and then said tomorrow. And I think this is what we all do. You know, we say, okay, after I clean the kitchen, after I check all of the social media, then I'll write. And I think it's one of the great things about NaPoWriMo is that it forces you to actually prioritize your creativity, which is something that I'm horrible at. I mean, I feel personally targeted by the no more bread to bake thing. I'm like, oh, my sourdough. Yes, this is important. So yeah, I really enjoyed that core message. And I think one of the really interesting things for me watching you write this month is that you are getting really into structure and form in a way that you don't normally do in your poems. You use a lot of free form with internal structures, but you don't really use a set meter and rhyme. And this month you are. So yeah.
I guess because I've been thinking a lot about things like return to form, and a lot of my earlier poems that I wrote in my head, so you can't really see what that looks like on the page. You're all going off the sound and the rhythm of the thing, whereas writing them for the page, like I have been with NaPoWriMo, I actually write them down on my computer. Seeing them and seeing where the rhyme comes and how it lands in the line has made me think more about how you join those pieces up and what you can do with repetition and either using a consistent rhyme or how you change the rhyme or like, rather than it being an almost instinctual thing for my writing, I want to be able to do it purposefully. So even though these aren't the best poems, they're purposeful, they're deliberate, which a lot of my stuff hasn't been. So that's what I'm going for.
Yeah, that really resonates with me because I feel that is my struggle at the moment. Having not written before, I like the ideas I'm examining, but I feel so inadequate to what I'm actually writing because I feel like I am wildly flailing around, and I just, though the idea is there, I feel like I'm not expressing it properly, or like I'm not aware of the mistakes I'm doing or the things why I'm not aware why things are working and when they're not. And sometimes I can tell as I'm writing it, but sometimes, probably most of the time, I can't. But then, like, you know, the freeing thing is it's NaPoWriMo. It's not about being good. It's just about getting ideas down on the page. So, you know, I just kind of shut that part of my brain off, but I am woefully aware that every time I am writing, if it's working, it's not necessarily because I'm good or I know what I'm doing. It's just because it happened to work.
And I think that's a starting point for most people, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know about you, Mark, Bex, like, you guys are newer than sort of Kate or I. Is there still a kind of almost accidental nature to your writing, the bits that you're proud of? Are you, like, shocked when you get a line?
Sometimes. Mostly my poems happen that I write out a bit and then I write a line and I go, oh, that line's better than everything else I've written. And then I scrap everything and then I write an entire poem. And that's just kind of how, like, mine is very accidental writing, but I always try this month is going to be difficult because most of the writing that I'll be putting out will be put onto paper, whereas I write for my voice and the way that I say words, so that if there's rhymes in there, it's rhymes that work for me and in my accent, but obviously might not work for someone else. So that's something I haven't really looked at this week, but I probably will start looking at moving onwards, maybe next week. That can be a goal.
Nice. I have the same thing where it's sometimes I'm writing something in my head and then I realise it's because I've been listening to a lot of Scroobius pit tracks or something, and I've written it all in a London accent, and then I try and read it out and I sound diabolically stupid. So yeah, I get
to
that.
have a London accent sometimes. That London accent.
But it can happen anything, you know what I mean? Like I'll be listening to some Koizan or whatever, and suddenly that slight change in maybe a vowel sound or whatever can change your whole rhyming structure, and then you come to do it in your own voice and go, this is madness. Cool. Well, thank you guys. I hope that was an okay starting point.
Yeah.
Who's got B?
I can do B.
You want to go for B, Kate?
Yeah. Although I didn't really do B. Renegade.
Then what's the point?
There's no point. Yeah, so I started I should say how I tend to write, and it's changing this month. What I usually do is I get some sort of an idea and I write a ton of stuff around it, and then I leave it in a folder for like months. More realistically, like years. I don't look at it. And then I come back to it later and I start whittling away at it and developing it and eventually get a poem. Obviously this month, I can't do that. So what I'm doing instead is just trying to write throughout the day, and then it's actually quite like what Beck said, so that sort of accidental inspiration. I come up with a line that I like, and then I develop it from there. What a lot of workshop leaders call it is panning for gold. So you free write, and then you find a little nugget, and then you develop that. So on the B day, I started writing a lot of B stuff. And then I had stuck in my head the prompt that Apples and Snakes put out, because they're also putting out prompts. And their day one prompt was start a poem with the line, "My taste for rain has changed." And I just had that line stuck in my head. So I started writing from that, and then eventually removed that as the first line and changed it. But yeah, here's what I came up with. I used to hate the rain, the droning drum of it, bruising the sky, shadowing the sun, muddying fields, how it dilutes the world, mutes its colors into grays, a static buzz, how it shoves our faces downwards, soaking through coats, growing black mold on windows, and in winter, its refusal at least to be snow. But now, I crave its cleansing, its way of rinsing our filth to places we do not see. It breaks heat with a crack like a prayer releasing, a drenched rebirth, the scent of earth that follows, reminding us where we came from, where we will return. So yeah.
So by the way, I do this, if you're on Zoom or whatever, and you don't want to break people's eardrums, you can do deaf applause, which is BSL, which is sort of jazz hands. That's what I go for.
Yeah.
That was beautiful, Kate. Bravo.
Yeah, it was so nice. So nice.
Yeah.
I will say as well, just before we get into your poem, Apples and Snakes is an amazing organisation.
Yes.
If you don't know about them, they run stuff throughout England, and they put on a huge amount of events all over the country, and do great work supporting artists and giving them paid opportunities and great development opportunities. So do check out Apples and Snakes. The prompts we're putting out are very much aimed at people who just are beginning, like a nice easy thing that you can take anything from. If you're maybe looking for a more in-depth prompt, I would definitely suggest Apples and Snakes, because those guys are ace.
There's tons of prompts out there, which is the great thing. I mean, find stuff that works for you. Maybe look at a couple of different prompts each day, see what piques your interest.
Nice. But the poem's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah.
Not all about BB. But, any thoughts?
It just makes me woefully aware of how unstructured my writing feels, or not unstructured, rather the other way around, too rigid. Every time I look at something you've posted, I feel like, oh, that's nice. It's got such a nice flow to it, but I cannot get out of a very strict rhythm, and I keep forcing myself to do it, and I keep just like ending up falling back into it. So yeah, really nice.
Thanks. I would say there is definitely like a structure, but it's sort of my own. I've become very, very conscious this month of my crutches, or that's a negative way of thinking about it, but my habits when I come to writing. And there's always okay, so I have this sound. How do I create an assonance in the next line? And how do I drip it to this thing? And so that might be something that I try to break out of. But yeah.
I mean, it's a difficult thing for most people. I find we've had these discussions before where every poem I have either ends super abruptly with me falling over, not finishing it or whatever, or it goes da 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 da.
Yeah, you love that rhyming couplet.
Yeah, that's all I have. This is weird for us as well. I know Mark and Bex are sitting silently because for us to critique the PhD is a painful process.
I mean, the thing about Katie's writing anyway, which I find like quite difficult, and I think I see a lot of particularly maybe newer poets relying too heavily on when they're trying to convey a memory for them, is getting really specific in the details that aren't really relevant. Whereas there's something really nice about Katie's writing, and I know Katie's going to be blushing and like feeling awkward about us complimenting her. So like, I don't know, whatever, deal with it. But where it's very clear that what you're writing is very personal to you, and it's like invokes like a memory, but it makes it like when you were reading that, like talking about that, and you're talking about all of the rain, all of I'm thinking about is like the Fringe last year and how it kept raining all the time, and like all of these times when, you know, when I was younger that I would get caught out in this weather and things like that. So it's really nice to be like, I feel like I'm sharing in your memory, even though it's my memory.
I don't know if it's a little bit to do with the difference between page poetry and stage poetry, performance poetry, because in performance poetry you have to make your poem immediately understandable, right? You have to make sure the audience, because they might never hear it again, you've got the 2-3 minutes that you're saying it to them to get across the idea of the piece. Whereas in page poetry, you're almost purposefully hiding the message of the poem, layering it so that multiple readings unpick the nuance and unpick the ideas, and you're able to lay that poem over your own experience. So I think a lot of the spoken word guys are much more comfortable with telling personal stories or telling factual, accurate stories to them and detailing them in a way that are understandable than someone like you has more experience in writing proper literature, page poetry, and being a bit more like hinting at the idea, right? Like, yeah, like you're saying, Bex, there, you think of the rain Edinburgh Fringe. That's not the image I get. And it's the strength of the poem that you can lay that over anyone and they will have a different but crystal clear image of what it's supposed to be. So like a definite thing that we can all look at Katie and try and maybe pull a bit more out of is how to use that vagueness as a tool.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, I we'll move on to the next person soon, but
she demands.
Yeah, right. But one thing that I think is going to be sort of a tough challenge for me this month, but one thing that I really want to focus on is usually when I write poems, they are quite personal, and I look straight inside and I go, even if it's an external inspiration, I go, how can I relate this to me and my sort of, this is going to sound very grandiose, but my sort of soul or spirituality or philosophy or theology or some sort of really, personal thing ultimately. And this month, one of the things I'm trying to do is go, okay, not every day has to be the poem. You know, you don't have to always make it this high-minded thing. It can be a sketch. It can be something that does not relate directly to your experiences. So still the best piece of artistic guidance I've ever received was from one of my dance professors, Rachel Boja, and she said, don't make the piece, make a piece. Not every poem, not every dance has to be the pinnacle of your career, the summation of everything you've ever learned. You can just write a poem, and it can be silly, or it can be profound, or it can be whatever it is. But I am learning that not everything has to be deeply personal or whatnot.
Nice. Good advice.
Before we even get any further, I want to shotgun C, by the way.
I don't think we're shotgunning.
Can you do that with poems?
I just did, so yeah.
I also want C, so...
Oh.
Do you also want C, or you just want to argue with Mark?
Do you love Lamp?
I do love Lamp, but I also want C.
Right, it's fine. You can both do C. But
Okay.
But Mark can go first, just so I can show him up.
what I'm going to say is actually, it's probably a good idea, just because I did my poem, and it can be quite distracting with trying to get your rhythm if you've got your headphones on.
Yeah.
So I would suggest just taking them off to do your poem. Yeah, so day 3 was C, and... You know what? Perry was nice to me earlier on. So do you want to go first, or do you want Mark to go first?
No, I want Mark to go first.
Can I just say, Mark was so irritating yesterday being on the Instagram story. He just kept coming in and being like, C is for cereal, C is for blah, blah, blah. Ooh, C is for cranky.
You've passed kindergarten, Mark. We all get it.
Oh, the shade.
So you can go and check out Mark's childish Instagram story from 2 days ago on the Instagram page.
Dare you?
We have a safe story with all the NaPoWriMo stuff, so check it out. But in the meantime, Mark has a day 3 C-related poem for us, don't you, Mark?
Yeah. My kindergarten related stuff, alright. Okay.
Kindergarten is spelled with a K, Mark, just so you know.
And in Scotland, it's called nursery.
I'm not going to take that from a Swede. Right, well, C's for a lot of things, as we all learned yesterday following along with Mark's Instagram story. So, here we go. Create. Consider creation? Come to class, ask anything. Catapult yourself into creativity, cast your past Caspers in different colours. Conquer cowardice. Spring clean that cranium and call upon what falls. Cook up and cater culture. Create. Create what? Choose a craft. Which craft? A creative craft. Command your craft. Care for your craft. Your craft is your child. Your craft is a canteen to the thirsty. Critique. Compare to others. Curse others. Copy others. Curse your craft. Condemn your craft. Cry. Catch breath. Cease comparing. Climb back up the cliff. Continue. Create. Create. Claps. Coffee. Create. Coffee. Coffee. Create. Claps. Crawl forward. Create. Chance. Crack open champagne, call all chums, class it up, celebrate, choose. Choose create, choose culture, choose cliche, consider creating. See what can be. Because C can stand for lots of stuff.
I
was
love
really
the
good,
bit where
man.
you just said cry.
Cry.
Very apt.
I think you can really see the frenetic nature of day 3 for you.
Yeah, it was all about C yesterday, and so I did a thing yesterday. What day are we on? Sunday.
Sunday, it's day
I had Friday. Oh my god, 2 days ago. Sorry, 2 days ago. Yeah, there was a lot of C's to be done.
It's nice though, like I love poems like that where it's you know, an alliteration or univocalism, or where there's this almost frenetic kind of pace to it. It adds to it. I always think of Dan Simpson's Taxi poem about his dad, or things like that, where it just adds this insane pace, and that's another good example, Mark. Well done. I didn't know there were that many C words.
Oh, a lot of them are the same.
So why did you go for that?
Well, it's the thing. So I just for the first few days I'd been kind of struggling a lot to kind of do what Katie said earlier, of like just get something down, and like I haven't been posting my stuff to Instagram because I wasn't particularly happy with a lot of it. I was more proud of getting of making sure I got stuff down and like getting those seeds. But then for C, I decided, I was like, right, I had been doing all the Instagram stuff. I was in a particularly C frame of mind, and I thought, right, so what I did is I just wrote down a bunch of C words, and the first word I thought of was create, because sure. And so I just wrote down a bunch of the C words that I had, and I really, again, it was like kind of, I suppose, that idea of like that univocalism coming into it, but also doing a bit almost like what Jenny Lindsay does, of like a few exceptions in there that allow it to come out. And this was one of the ones that was weird for me, because that's the first time I've ever actually read it out loud. This is one of the first poems I've ever like written, I suppose, where I've written it down and just in silence. Yeah.
It can be a difficult choice, like on what you say there, is when to bring in exceptions.
Yeah.
I know when I've tried to write stuff that was, alliteration based or univocal, as soon as I run into a hurdle where I don't know what the next word is, or there isn't, like you try, you pour over it, and you can't find a way out, a linking out, just use an exception, and there are ones in there from your poem, but it doesn't take away, something like witchcraft is a word that stood out there, but there are 2 C's in it, so you can find ways to still make it fit, if not perfectly, close enough.
Yeah. I did for D yesterday. I did the same thing with a lot of D words, and it was really interesting saying, okay, when am I going to let myself break the rule, and how can I use internal rhyme to still keep the continuity up? And yeah, I think you did that really well, Mark.
Was that a lot of pondering for you, Mark, over where to use those words?
It was weird. It was the odd bit where it was kind of creating chaos, and I realized that actually I had the line "create chaos" in there somewhere that I've completely got rid of now as well, which was a shame, because the line that kind of one of the lines that started it all is the line that is kind of gone.
Darlings and all that.
The other thing as well, in terms of you writing down all of the C words, that is actually how I recommend writing pun poems. If anyone wants to write pun poems and find it difficult, get the puns first and then make the story around them. The story will reveal itself to you. So maybe it worked the same for you with the C words. I don't know.
It's why every pun poem is a love poem. to lay it over. But yeah, good job, Mark. Nicely done. I know you had a struggle this week, a couple late nights.
Just because I've been the last one to finish every day, that doesn't mean I'm struggling.
We were, I think, keeping up with each other. I finished several at like 11 or midnight, so I feel
I wonder who's gonna fail first.
Speaking of failures, Perry, I think you had a C poem for us.
Wow.
I think you'll find
nice segue.
I've been doing excellent this entire time.
Irritatingly.
At least in terms of outputting writing every day. I don't think
first, like almost every morning.
Yeah. I don't think they're the best work, but again, that's not what
Me neither.
What this is for.
Again, I'd take your headphones off just before you read Per, just for your own. I'll be fine. Oh, he's a pro.
Cool. So this is C for Crimes of War. When I initially thought of this idea, I was like, that'll be a good T for toys. And then I was like, no, but I want to write it now because I have it in my head. I like this idea. So I was like, I'll do C for Crimes of War. And it was only sitting here now that I realized, C's for children. That would have been like so much easier. Didn't occur to me. I was like, how do I fit this in?
Thought you knew C words, Perry. Thought you'd already graduated kindergarten, got past C words.
I'm glad that our flats can be up, because it might go badly.
Okay, I'll just launch into it. This is C for Crimes of War. This time they have stooped to new lows. They, them. Landmines of Lego litter the hallways. Doll made first contact. Limpin' Polly, they call her now. At least she got to keep the leg. She was only trying to help. In better news, we've taken back the kitchen. It was ransacked pretty good, nothing but wrappers and empty cans of pop. But their short-sighted searching was our fortune. We cheered at the sight of something more sustaining than Play-Doh. Tins of beans on the top shelf, rations and munitions. Tomorrow, the gas attacks commence. I pray the stalemate ends before winter sets in.
Nicely done there. Good job.
Perry, I love that. I really love
that.
Thank
you, Bex.
a sly fart joke never goes amiss, and I loved it.
Gotta have it. Gotta have it.
Yeah,
Gotta have beans, man.
it all came from the Lego line, because I was just thinking about Lego and stepping on Lego, and probably saw a Reddit post, and I was like, Lego, landmines. Well, that's funny, and right from the children's perspective, but you do it as, you know, with the severity of an actual soldier of war. I just like that juxtaposition.
I think it's actually better not being called children. I think the title that you have is better than C is for children.
Yeah,
agreed. But the thing that leaps out to me is that juxtaposition of tone and content, and it's something I've done later in the week, but it's a lot of fun when you can take, and it's one of the great tools of poetry. I often think we talk a lot about like what makes sense and what forms you're going to go for, whether it's free written or da-da-da, but actually taking a very simple premise like that, and just taking those two aspects of it. What would it be if it was written in a very sophisticated manner, but is a fart? Or you can. It reminds me so interesting out of that. Like when I overheard Kate and Perry talking about their poem, about Perry's poem, and I initially thought he was talking about Plato.
Instead of Play-Doh.
Yeah, so it turns out I was wrong.
You were just like, oh, Perry getting all sophisticated with NaPoWriMo, blah, blah, blah. And it was like...
But I think one of the really interesting things, especially about Perry, is that English is your second language, Perry. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of complicated vocabulary in there. I spent certainly much more than any of my poems this week. Is that something... Because you don't use like a particularly extreme vocabulary in your day-to-day.
I really don't know. No, I love writing, and I think I'd have a more difficult time writing in Swedish than I do in English, because I've always had a thing for languages, and I always chose to like study English. So no, I don't know. I can use big words. I don't in day-to-day setting.
Use big words.
But it's just interesting to see.
Yeah.
You because I've not seen a lot of your poetry. You don't write a lot of poetry.
Yep.
So like, but all this week it has been stuff that is pretty complex in its language.
Oh, thank you. Oh, I appreciate that.
Also, check out Perry's poem on Instagram, because the way that it's laid out visually is really interesting, which is not a surprise, you being someone who usually works with visual media.
I only did that because I saw the first poem you posted, and I was like, oh no, I need to get away from just like doing justified text with nothing else. It became boring very quick, and as soon as I saw that, I was like, yeah, that's what I need to do. So I did that with my second one as well, Bees for Basket Case, where it's about a street preacher and people avoiding him and what he's actually shouting. But the way I laid it out was like the first few lines are about like people arching around him on the street, and so I laid it out like an exclamation mark, and then the justified text loops around him, like the people avoiding him in the street. I thought that was quite interesting.
It's a thing with formatting your poems and how you make them look on the page that, especially as a spoken word artist, you overlook quite a lot. I released a pamphlet at one point, and I had to get Kate to kind of look at all my poems and actually make them look pretty, because it's important when you've got a book, you want those poems to pop off the page, and you want them to emphasize what you're saying in the piece. Mark, Bex, have you guys been thinking a lot about how they look, or has it just been more about getting through this first week and getting some writing down?
Getting through 100%. Well, for me at least, because like I say, the thing for me for NaPoWriMo, and it's very annoying that Perry's been doing so well so quickly, is I was like going to use this again, like to just try and grab seeds and grab ideas, and then after NaPoWriMo being able to go through it. It's very annoying that Perry has what very easily could be finished pieces, and that they look pretty. It's made me very unhappy.
Yeah,
I mean, I hate you, Mark, but that's very kind of you to say. So thank you.
But it's a different thing. You write a very specific, way, Mark. You're and often for a very specific purpose. This is, you haven't actually had a lot of time in your writing development to experiment with different styles and things like that. You kind of got thrown quite quickly into the deep end of Loud Poets and having to write our style and do what we do. So.
Yeah, so it's good to see like different forms and stuff like that coming out, and like I say, it's fun to see Perry's writing with all of the time he's been involved and been with us and seen. Like Perry's probably seen more poetry, or at least listened to a lot of the videos more times than we have of our own stuff.
Yeah.
He's seen a lot of more poetry than some poets I know.
Yeah,
You
so like
still
it's
have polos
cool to see the
memorized from
immersion.
editing it together.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, hang on, Bex had a thing.
Yeah, I wanted to say something. I've forgotten what it is. Hang on, no, I've remembered now. What I was going to talk about is like a lot of with the visual stuff. I don't write visually because that's not really, because I'm from a performing artsy background. So I was doing like, loads of singing and like pantomime and comedy and that kind of stuff. So to me, it never really is that important how it looks on the page. But seeing like Perry doing his stuff and things like that, I wanted to ask Perry a question. And do you think sometimes you choose words because they look better than because of how they sound?
Good question.
Genuinely, just a curious question.
No, not individual words, but sentence length. Yes, I hate ending a paragraph with a really long line if the preceding ones aren't. That looks like visually bad to me, unless the next one is following along, just like you did with your, I think, second poem, where you did like a wave breaking and crashing. So yes, I will choose sentence length usually. I will compromise and go for something that looks visually good rather than, because again, I don't know a huge amount about poetry, so like if it reads well enough in my head, then I don't really care. Then I want to prioritize it looking good on the page.
I've done a similar thing, Bex. If you look at, like Perry was saying, my second day poem, Broken, is each stanza of it looks the same. They're not all a consistent length line, but stanza to stanza looks the same. And I had a really hard time with the third stanza because I had to completely change some of the lines to make them fit that structure. So it can be limiting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Sorry, I was just curious. Can I have D, please? Wait,
Yes,
that
Bex.
sounded
Yes,
not
that's a great
that. Wait, that's not really what I meant.
Only once quarantine's done.
Okay. Sorry, guys. I've written a cow poem.
Of course.
Yes.
This is called. I'm not going to give you any context. Ask all of the questions that you have afterwards because you will have some. This is my day 4 poem for D. Dragons exist because cows. Upon a night alone and cold, a legend stemmed to be retold, when cowherds watching them were weary and due to dark could not see clearly. Across the fields all cold and bare would light a fire to see them there. Their cows, I mean, and often gather, and foolish cowherds would then blather of beasts at night with fangs and claws, who could breathe fire out their jaws. As when the cowherds looked at night, they saw dark shapes that gave them frights, and in their tired and nervous state would look beyond their wooden gates. Frightful shapes at night allow the mind to see more than a cow. But science since has now explained that putting methane to a flame would cause the gas to then ignite and lighten up these darker nights. But for a cowherd with no learning would find sights like this that concerning, and in their fright would create a demon to secure their fate. They would turn to friends and warn, and thus the mighty dragon was born.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Yes. Yes. You wrote that like in no time. Jesus.
That's
Bex.
so
Yeah, I
good.
wrote that while watching RuPaul's Drag Race. Or RuPaul's Dragon Race. Haha, no bad, that's bad.
That's so much fun. And I love that in 5 poems we had 2 that are about farts.
Yeah. So when I was the stem of this is, I can't remember who told me this, and I do not know if it is true. But if it is true, I love it, and if it's not true, I love it even more. That the idea of dragons stemmed from, shepherds and farmers and cowherds who would look out and they would light big fires in the middle of their field to keep their herds warm. And at night they would look out and they would see a big dark shape breathing fire, which would be all the cows standing around the fire farting. And that's the idea of how dragons were born. I do not know if that was true. Do not at me. Do not tweet me. I don't care. I don't want to know. I specifically haven't looked it up because I don't want to know whether it's true or not. But I just thought that was a fun idea. I like the idea, so I think I'm going to believe it to be true, even if it's not.
Beautiful stuff, Bex.
That's ace. And again with the structure, like relying on a
really nice
rhyming structure and meter. Yeah.
It's funny because I often think about like poetry for kids and stuff. Like I know Mark Rist and Dominic Berry, folk like that do a lot of poetry for children, and I think you would be so good in that vein. Bex. Just your personality and the way that translates into your poetry and your writing is a perfect pair.
Well, I don't really like... I'm quite sweary in real life. I don't really like swearing in my, like, poems. I think the only time I've sworn in a poem is when you guys wrote me that line in a poem where I say the F word. And that's the only time that I've actually sworn in any poetry. And I kind of like that, you know, for me personally... I find the world really bleak and depressing, and I don't want to write really bleak and depressing poetry. I've always wanted to write fun stuff. But I have seen more, like, from seeing more poetry and seeing more people do poetry, I, like, see the merit of, you know, getting to explore those other styles. And I think the more I explore those other styles, the funnier I become. So it's great.
Do you find it hard to write funny poems in such a short space of time? Because I feel with comedy beyond, like, over... sort of more serious writing, it is harder and requires more editing and more practice to find that beat and timing for comedy poems.
I think it kind of depends. The worst thing you can do for a joke is overthink it. Like if you find something funny, there is a chance that because you are enjoying it and because you find it funny, that other people will as well. Obviously, there are like areas that if you find them funny, other people won't find them funny because they're just offensive, and that makes you an asshole. But just don't be an asshole, and then you'll be fine. That's my top tip for writing comedy.
Amazing advice.
Sage advice from Bex Sherwood. Don't be an arsehole. Awesome. So yeah, that's kind of our first week, A through D. Good job, guys. Well done. Well done. And if you are writing at home and you've made it through the first 4 days, pat on the back. Well done, you. Congratulations. This is day 5. So if I write my poem today, I break my record. And there are some other personal things going on. I have heard rumour that there's a bet between Mark and Perry.
There is, yes. Yeah,
there is, yeah.
We made a little gentleman's wager of who of us would drop out first.
I called your way too confident bluff, Perry. That's what this is.
I don't know. So far, I've been doing pretty damn good, Mark. Just saying. So, not too worried. So what Mark is going to have to do when he loses is he's going to have to print a T-shirt with a picture of my face on it with best. What was it, Mark? Best poet /
amazing poet / genius.
That was it, yes. And then he's going to take me on a mandate.
So whichever one of you drops out first has to do the T-shirt and take the other one on the mandate?
Yes,
yeah.
So
the rules are very simple. The first person, Perry, to miss a day loses. And nice. The picture of the winner is chosen by the winner. So I've got a big gallery up of all the pictures I might want Perry to wear. Oh,
majestic.
I'm just excited about where he's going to take us.
Can I just ask one question? Mark, the pictures you are looking at, are many of the pictures you are looking at taken by Perry?
Of course they are.
Perfect. So we've got a little spice on top of the forfeit challenge for week 2. Let's see if we can all keep it going. Best of luck to you guys if you're going to keep going. We will be doing E through... what's 7 letters away from...
C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K.
PhD in English.
What? That feels like a lot.
J. It's J. So we're doing E through J this week. You can keep up to it on the Instagram. Follow us on Instagram. You can see the story. We're saving them all to a save story on our profile page there, so you can check that out. Like I said, check out Return to Form. Check out our weekly videos that are going up on the YouTube page.
Can I please just do a wee shout out to some people?
Could have done it at the end of my plugs, but whatever.
Yeah, well, I mean, deal with it, Kev. I just wanted to shout out certain people who've been posting, because we were talking about the Instagram, so people who've been posting on the Instagram.
After my plugs.
Oh, well, that's rude of you. This is my project, Kev. You can't own everything.
Instagram. You can follow along on there. You can jump over to Facebook and Twitter, wherever you're posting stuff. We're keeping an eye on it, so please do share it, and we'll be putting it all up on our Instagram story. If you've been following along and you want to get something on the podcast, we're going to be doing these week to week. Please do send them in. You can comment below on the YouTube page and leave us a poem there. Vote on the poll above my head in the little I bar. Please do check that stuff out. We will be back next week with a new episode of the podcast. So that's going to be awesome. Bex, do you want to talk about the other people that have been joining in?
No, I don't want to. No.
Cool.
I'm not with that attitude that you've got.
Guys, so
No,
no.
please, Kev.
Interesting.
I just want to shout out. Oh, I hate your attitude problem. I wish I could come over and kick your ass. So I just want to shout out the lovely Georgia, who we've worked with loads, is unfortunately unwell.
Georgia.
Get well soon, Georgia. Yes. Callum O'Dwyer, who obviously is like, you know, Bay to all of our lives, has been also doing poetry. He has been unwell. He is getting better. Woo, Callum, yay! Fiona and Jack Hinks, they've both been posting on the reg. Stuart Kenny's been doing loads of real cool stuff. I think Harry Baker gave us a wee shout out. Thanks, Harry. He is doing poetry stuff all through the time. Dan Simpson throwing us some shade on Twitter as well. So shout out to Dan Simpson and his shady Twitter. Yeah, and I think there's probably other people that I've forgotten. I'm really sorry, but I love you.
Yeah, PJ.
Repeat beat. Oh my God, PJ, forgive me. I love you, PJ.
So if you want to get shout outs, if you want to join in, you can just join in. Hashtag NaPoWriMo, hashtag I am loud, all that good fun. We will be back next week. If you can't wait till then, there are going to be some extra poems going up on our Patreon page. So jump over there. If you donate $3 and up, you get access to the exclusive stuff. So we'll be sticking about for a little bit after this to record some of the extra poems that we did during the week. And check that out. And until next week, keep writing, stay safe, stay sane, stay indoors. We will see you soon. Everybody say bye.
Bye.
Yeah!
Enough! Thank you all so much for watching this episode of the Loudcast. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button, maybe give us a subscribe, and if you could hit the bell icon so you don't miss any updates, we would appreciate it so much. If you want to get more Loudcasts in your life, you can jump over to our Patreon channel right now, where there's a Loudcast exclusive from this episode up live right now. So go check it out, donate, we'd really appreciate it.